used to think people left me because life pulled them away. But at some point, I had to ask myself a harder question. What if I was the one quietly closing the door before anyone had the chance to stay? My name is Eleanor, and I'm 87 years old. I've lived a long life filled with people who came close. And yet, I find myself now wondering why so few of them remained, and what part I played in that. When I was young, I didn't think of myself as someone who pushed people away. I thought of myself as careful, independent, strong in a way that didn't rely on anyone else too much. I grew up in a house where emotions were kept tidy, like the living room we only used on special occasions. You learn early not to make a mess of things, especially not with your feelings. My mother believed that needing too much from people was a kind of weakness. She never said it directly, but you could feel it in the way she handled things. If something hurt, you dealt with it quietly. If you were disappointed, you adjusted your expectations. If someone let you down, you simply stopped expecting anything from them at all. I became very good at that. By the time I was in my 20s, people described me as easy to be around. I didn't argue. I didn't demand. I didn't make things complicated. At the time, I thought that was a compliment. I didn't realize that part of what made me easy was that I didn't let anyone get close enough to see what I actually needed. I married in my early 30s. He was a good man, patient in ways I didn't fully appreciate back then. He would ask me what I was thinking, and I would tell him I was fine. He would notice when something seemed off, and I would say it was nothing. I believed I was keeping the peace, but now I see I was also keeping him at a distance. There were moments, I can see them clearly now, when he was reaching for something deeper, not with big gestures, but in small, quiet ways. Sitting a little longer at the table after dinner, asking a second question when I gave a short answer, waiting just a bit to see if I might say more. Most of the time I didn't. I told myself I didn't want to burden him, that he had enough on his mind, that if something truly mattered, I would know how to say it. But the truth is, I never learned how to let someone see me without first arranging myself into something easier to accept. Over the years, we built a life together that looked steady from the outside. We had routines, shared responsibilities, a rhythm that worked. But there was a space between us that I never quite crossed, and I don't think he knew how to cross it either. When he passed, people spoke about what a solid couple we had been, and in many ways, we were. But there were conversations we never had, and those are the ones that visit me now, more often than I expected. After he was gone, I thought I would open up more, that something in me would finally relax, that I would allow people closer. And for a little while, I tried. Friends would invite me out. My children would call and ask how I was doing. Neighbors would stop by and linger in the doorway, hoping I might invite them in. I answered politely. I kept things pleasant, and then slowly I created space again. It wasn't something I did all at once. That's what makes it hard to notice. I would take a little longer to return a call. I would say I was tired when someone suggested getting together. I would keep conversations on safe ground, where nothing too personal had to be shared. Each small decision felt reasonable on its own, but together they formed a pattern. People don't usually confront you about that kind of distance. They adjust. They stop asking as often. They assume you prefer your own company. And after a while, the silence you've created begins to feel like something that simply happened to you. There was a moment not too long ago when this became clear in a way I couldn't ignore. My granddaughter had come to visit. She's a thoughtful girl, observant in a way that reminds me of myself, though I hope she carries it differently. We were sitting in the living room and she asked me a simple question. She said, "Grandma, why don't you ever tell us when something is wrong?" I gave her the answer I've given all my life. I said, "Oh, I'm just fine. I don't like to worry people." She looked at me for a moment, and then she said something that stayed with me. She said, "But it feels like you don't trust us enough to let us care about you." That wasn't said with anger. It was quiet, almost gentle, but it settled into me in a way that was hard to shake. I've had many years to think about myself, but that sentence made me look at something I had been avoiding. I had always believed I was protecting people by holding things in, by not asking for too much, by keeping my struggles to myself. But what if, all along, what I was really doing was keeping people from having a place in my life that mattered? There's a kind of distance that feels like strength when you're younger. It gives you control. It protects you from disappointment. But over time, it also limits how deeply you can be known. I started to see how often I had chosen distance over discomfort. How many times I had ended a conversation just as it was beginning to become real. How often I had turned away from connection, not because it wasn't there, but because I didn't know how to receive it. Pushing people away doesn't always look like rejection. Sometimes it looks like politeness, like independence, like being low maintenance. It can even look like kindness, especially when you tell yourself you're sparing others from your burdens. But people don't feel close to you because you never ask anything of them. They feel close because you let them see you as you are, even when that's inconvenient or uncomfortable. At 87, I am still learning this, not in a way that changes everything overnight, but in small, hesitant steps. I've begun to answer questions more honestly, even when the answer isn't tidy. I've tried to stay in conversations a little longer, to resist the urge to close them too quickly. It feels unfamiliar. Sometimes it feels like I'm doing it wrong. But I've also noticed something else. When I allow a little more of myself to be seen, people don't pull away. They move closer. I think about my husband often when I consider this. I wonder what might have been different if I had trusted him with more of my inner life. Not just the practical parts, but the fears, the doubts, the things I kept hidden because I didn't want to seem difficult. I don't dwell on it the way I used to. There's no change in that now. But there's a quiet understanding that comes from seeing the pattern clearly. If I have been pushing people away, it wasn't because I didn't care about them. It was because I didn't fully believe I could be cared for in the way I needed. It's a hard thing to admit, even now. If you're listening to this and you recognize something in it, I won't tell you to change everything at once. That's not how people work, and it's not how I've learned anything in my life. But I will say this: the distance you keep may feel safe, but it also decides how much of you the world ever gets to know. And more importantly, it decides how much of others you allow into your life. I'm still asking myself this question. Why do I keep pushing people away? I don't have a perfect answer, but I am beginning to understand that it isn't something that just happens. It's something I've practiced quietly for a long time. And like anything practiced, it can be changed slowly if you're willing to notice it. So now, when someone asks me how I'm doing, I try, just a little, to tell the truth. Not all of it, not perfectly, but more than I used to, because at this age, I've come to see that being known, even imperfectly, is not something to avoid. It's something I wish I had allowed much earlier. And if you still have time to let someone see you more clearly than I did, then perhaps that understanding doesn't have to come as late for you as it did for me. I invite you to listen to other life lessons from other people in this channel. You can always learn something new that you can apply to your life. I wish you the very best.